of creating opportunities today. And as Karen mentioned, my name is Sarah Yapel, and I'm a WIT committee member, and I work specifically as a part of the event planning group. And I am currently at Maryville College as the Career Center Assistant Director, which is partially what brings me in front of you today to talk a little bit about networking. As I was prepping for today's presentation, I was vividly reminded of my first networking event as a young professional. So I was much younger than I am now, fresh out of college, and I can't even remember how I heard about this networking event, but I thought, I'm a professional, I need to go to this event, make connections. So I signed up and I went, and I get there, and it's this large scale event, very hustly and bustly environment. And I found myself just sort of like hanging out on the edge of the event. And I'm an extrovert, so I'm typically very socially comfortable. And so I can imagine that for an introvert, this would be even more intimidating. So I had to give myself a little pep talk, and I'm like, okay, I got to get in there. I got to dive in, which I eventually did. And kind of the first round went almost just straight across the room from one side to the other. But eventually I did engage in a few conversations and connected with a few folks. I didn't have any grand faux pas or do anything horribly, but I left feeling underwhelmed in terms of what the purpose of the event was for me, and also exhausted. I was so exhausted from this event. So my hope is that this workshop will be helpful for everyone in attendance to be able to attend networking events in the future, whether in person, like that story was, or virtually like we're doing today, and not be leaving feeling underwhelmed and exhausted. So with that, we'll kind of dive in and get started. And I will share my contact information for how to connect with me after the presentation, as well as how to connect with KTech's WIT group in our chat feature towards the end of our time together today. So that will be coming. So to frame our conversation, what I hope that you will leave today's workshop with is a 30-second pitch. So feeling comfortable introducing yourself professionally. So for those networking contexts, and connecting that to some creative strategies for professional conversation. So thinking through what those interactions can look like so that you can make meaningful connections and hopefully add to your network. And we do hope that you engage with us here at WIT as well. So I'll share that contact info towards the end of our time together. So we're going to dive right in. This content will move fairly quickly because we have an interactive portion of our workshop today, and we'll be working quickly to get to that so that we've got some hands-on practice time. So an elevator pitch, what does it mean? What do you need to include? You might have also heard it called an elevator speech, or a professional pitch, or a 30-second speech, or a 30-second commercial. But all those names mean the same thing, and it's essentially an introduction in a professional setting. So as with any time you're meeting someone new, you would include your name when you're introducing yourself. And then you want to add a little bit of context as to who you are professionally, what type of work you do. So you want to tell the other person your current pursuit, what you're working on, your current location, organization, title, where are you now? What are you doing for work, or what are you doing professionally? And then to add on to that, you could add a specialization or area of focus, which can give some context of maybe not just where you work or what your title is, but a little bit more to add to an understanding of the type of work you do. So for example, I might say, hi, my name is Sarah Yapel, and I am the Assistant Director of Maryville College's Career Center. And I work primarily with students around career education and professional skill development. So that's a little bit about what I do. You'll notice that that was very brief and very to the point. So 30 seconds, remember, is so fast. So you want to make sure to avoid having 3 sentences about your current job or where you're currently located, and then 3 more sentences about, your specialization and area of focus. This is really quick bites of information about yourself, just so that someone has some quick context of who you are and what you do. You'll see the last bullet point on this slide is goals. And there's an asterisk there for goals for two reasons. So one is, while it's connected to your pitch, you may not necessarily include it in that initial introduction when you're saying hello. It might come into the conversation later, but it's very, very connected to your pitch and connected to networking interactions. The other reason that there is an asterisk here is goals could take a lot of different forms. So it might be a goal for today's networking session or an event that you're a part of. What's your goal for the event? So maybe to practice communicating professionally and to make some connections in KTEX WIT network might be a goal for today. But they could be larger scale also. So maybe it's a goal currently in your career in terms of next steps you might want to take soon, or maybe it's a project you're working on in your current job that you want help with or need advisement from, professionals in a different industry or something like that. So it can take lots of different forms, but setting some intention behind what your goals are for an event and then what your goals are for networking in general in terms of what kinds of connections would be helpful for you is really what can make attending those events and making those connections really pay off for you and kind of benefit you professionally. So that leads to our next piece of content, which is conversations versus transactions. So networking is extremely nuanced, and you really want to remember that it's just a conversation in a professional context, not a transaction of, oh, I'm going to exchange contact information, because you wouldn't want to go to a networking event with the goal of, I want to leave with 10 connections. Well, depending on the event and the people that are there, there may not be 10 people that it makes sense for you to follow up with afterward, or that it makes sense for you to connect with and stay in touch with. And the big part of having this happen is to listen. So listen to what the other person is saying. Listen to who you're in conversation with. And then ask questions. So using that active listening to think about what it is they're saying and ask questions if something's unclear. And then you can share information about yourself, and the two of you, or in this interaction, right, you can kind of figure out, like, where is your common ground? How might you help each other? Would it make sense for you to stay connected and be in each other's networks? Are there goals that you can help support each other with? And all of those things. So practical tips for speed networking, which is what we're going to practice shortly today, is you should be ready to share your contact information. So we're going to be interacting and practicing networking with each other, but hopefully you'll have some great conversations and make a meaningful connection or two. So go ahead and either type out your email address or copy your email signature that you can paste into a chat, or have your social media handles or LinkedIn URL ready to share, because that's how you'll connect with people afterwards that you interact with today. General networking tips for a fast-paced setting is just remember to not talk the whole time. So these interactions will go very quickly. So be mindful and respectful of the person that you're interacting with so that everyone has a chance to participate. All right, so here in just a second, we're going to dive right in. So I want to walk through the logistics and talk about how our speed networking is going to work. And then I'll talk specifically about the platform and how the technology will look for this exercise. So we're going to be networking one-on-one, and we're going to have 3-minute rotations. And 3 minutes is extremely fast. So just be aware, it's going to feel really quick. It's going to feel like you're going through this very quick, especially when we get started. There will be a 1-minute break in between rotations for us to transition and get with a new partner. So that's the general breakdown. I'll talk specifically about the technology next, but there is a Q&A feature on your chat screen. So on the right side of the screen, so that way, you should see chat, participants, and Q&A. If you have questions during the event, please utilize the Q&A feature and not the general chat feature. Additionally, when this presentation view goes away in just a minute, you'll see a center table. That's a tech support table in the center of the room, of the virtual room. If you need support, you can always pop over there, and there's some other tech support tables on the edges of the event as well. So just be mindful of that. So setup and logistics. This is a small picture, and I'll enlarge that diagram in just a second on the next slide. But basically, you're going to sit at a table for two, and all you have to do to join a table is just double click on a seat. And I'm sure some of you have already done that, or maybe already seated at tables, but make sure that you're seated at a numbered table now. So if you're not at a numbered table, as soon as we end the presentation view, you'll want to go to a numbered table, which is in the center of your screen. So not on the left or the right, in the center. And how the rotations will function is the person that sits in the left seat or the left side of the table, when you're looking at the screen, you will remain stationary throughout the rotations. And the person on the right side of the table or in the right-hand chair will rotate up numerically. So if you're at table 2, you'll move up to table 3. However, you're going to move out of the table itself before you join a new table. So we need to have transition time for people to say goodbye and exchange contact information if they need. So instead of going from table 2 to table 3, you'll leave table 2 and go out to a table on either side of your screen, so the left or the right, and then you'll join the next table. So you'll need to note your table number whenever you're doing these transitions. So you'll end your conversation, go to the right or the left to a table as a placeholder, and then you'll go back to your new table. So again, if you were at table 2, you'll go to table 3. And here is just a closer view of what that looks like. And you can see the first row has tables 1 through 5, then tables 6 through 10, etc., going up in value. And so just to recap, we'll have 3 minutes. You'll start with your introductions or your pitches. And this is a safe space, so we are truly practicing here. Please don't feel intimidated. We're here to support one another and hopefully feel more comfortable with the process when we leave. There will be some provided questions on the screen when this view goes away as well. It's in sort of the top, and it's in a white text box, but it's some questions for conversation after you get through the pitch to hopefully help you make those meaningful connections. Then a tone will indicate our rotation. You'll say goodbye, exchange your contact info. Person in the right seat will move to a placeholder table off to either side of your screen, and then you'll go to your next table. So remember to note your table number. If you start at table 2, you'll go to table 3. If you start at table 11, you'll go to table 12. And once we see how many seats there are when we all choose a table in just a moment, if you're at the top, so if you're at the last table numerically, then you would rotate back around to table 1. Okay, so we are going to get started and dive right in. Again, if you have questions, utilize the Q&A as opposed to the general chat, or pop to that center table if you need something. So we're going to go away from our presenter view and join tables and start networking. And then we'll come back together at the end of the event for some wrap up, as well as we have a raffle and a prize for some lucky participants today. So make sure to hang around for that. Thank you so much. Let's give it a go.